Alright everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not you're smart enough to get into medical school. So doctors have a reputation for being hardworking, intelligent people, doing good service for others, and rightfully so. Most doctors are all those things. They pay their dues through years of hard work, student loan debt, and unbelievable amounts of stress. And a common concern amongst pre-med students is if they're capable of doing it, or even medical students have doubts. Am I smart enough to be a doctor? Because all we see is the final product of an attending physician and the way they're able to figure everything out, and it can lead to you questioning yourself. Now there is certainly a baseline level of smarts you need to succeed in medical school as well as getting there, but being a doctor is much more than being book smart. You need a baseline IQ that allows you to think critically and succeed in school, but who's to say what that level really is? Life as a student and life as an attending physician are very different things, and your success in school doesn't directly reflect how good of a doctor you'll be. For example, I dropped grade 12 physics with a 31% in the class. So believe me, if I can get here, you can too. Now let's go over the things that we feel really determine whether or not you're smart enough for medical school. Now the first and most important thing is your ability to learn. As a physician, you're committing to a life of being a lifelong student. There's never a finish line where you know everything. Science is always changing and there's always new guidelines coming out, and it's your responsibility to keep up with them and learn them. The information you learn in medical school isn't particularly hard, there's just lots of it. By the time you wrap your head around one block, the next one's already ready for you and you have to remember everything from the old one. The only way to hone this skill of learning is by using it. So while you're in pre-med or you're a medical student, try and learn a lot, whether it's schoolwork or not. It can be reading books, it can be about a hobby. Just try to constantly be learning about things that you're interested in, and this is going to strengthen your learning and memorization muscle, which is very important for medical school. Now the second thing is the ability to apply the knowledge that you have. It's one thing to learn a bunch of information, but unless you can apply it to real-world scenarios, then it doesn't really count for much. Throughout pre-med and medical school, you will have to memorize and regurgitate a lot of things, but it's your ability to use that knowledge to diagnose and treat patients that ultimately counts. No one really cares about what your grades were. It's all about if you get the result or not. This is why it's very important to do things rather than just learn. If you're studying for school, for example, you need to use practice questions to reinforce information. In medical school, you should be using practice cases rather than just memorizing facts. And in whatever free time you have, you should seek new experiences and actually get in the trenches of the things that you're interested in, rather than just consuming information about them. This is going to help you to think outside of the box and learn how to synthesize information so you can use it in real-world scenarios. Now the next thing that's very important in determining your success as a medical student and as a doctor is your ability to manage time. There's always going to be a growing list of things that you have to be juggling throughout your path to medical school, through medical school, and as a resident, as well as an attending. You have to be able to do all this efficiently and effectively without burning out. In pre-med, for example, you have to balance class, MCAT, jobs, extracurriculars, as well as social life. And in med school, it's very similar. As a doctor, you're going to be balancing patients, teaching residents, documenting, and again, family life. And just like point one, the only way to get better at this is by doing it. You need to get in the habit of scheduling out your weeks and days and following through on that schedule. You need to learn how to do things in the most efficient manner that works for you, so that by the time you get to medical school or residency, you already have a system in place. Now the next very important thing, which is often overlooked, is your communication skills. Medical schools are becoming more and more progressive now, and they're looking for students who display social ability and street smarts rather than just book smarts. You have to study a lot to get into med school as well as in med school, and it may sometimes get in the way of your social development if you let it. At the end of the day, you have to be able to communicate what you know. Whether it's with patients, nurses, other doctors, or whoever you're working with, it takes different levels of communication to get the same message across. You don't have to be a loud extrovert if that's not you, but you do need a baseline communication to succeed in medicine. So try and get out there and do social activities, volunteer with other people, study in groups, go to social outings, whatever you can to practice this skill. Now last but definitely not least, the most important thing in determining your success in getting to medical school, as well as surviving it, is grit and discipline. 80% of it is just showing up and doing the things that you don't want to do when they need to be done. Regardless of how passionate you are about medicine, you won't necessarily enjoy every part of it. We all like working with patients and solving their problems, but not so much the hours of memorizing and the boring work that goes in behind that. You need to be able to just stick through it and put long-term achievement over short-term gratification. Your ability to do this is much more important than your IQ. Again, you can work on this by doing hard things that take discipline before or during medical school. Things like learning an instrument, lifting weights, competitive sports, building a business, reading a certain amount of books, whatever you can do to build up your discipline and your ability to do things that you don't feel like doing is going to help you. Nobody likes studying for the MCAT or studying for any exam, but when you know that it's going to lead to your goals, you have to be able to put in the work. So all in all, these traits are much more important than your IQ or your grades in determining whether you're smart enough to become a doctor. Obviously, you need enough smarts to get a high GPA and a high MCAT, but don't let anybody, especially yourself, tell you that you're too dumb or not good enough to pursue this career. Work on these traits in whatever way that you can, and it's going to pay off for you. Nobody's born a good doctor. Good doctors are made. You just have to have the right blueprint, and if you work on these things and you're honest with yourself, you can build that good blueprint, so never doubt yourself. We hope this helped you guys out. As always, feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you want to hear about next.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast and watching the video. Please subscribe, leave a rating, and share us with your friends. Together, we will end physician burnout and suicide by educating medical students and health professionals. Find us on all social media platforms or email us at pathofadoctor@gmail.com.